Well, hey everybody, it's Al the dog trainer. Welcome to our next episode of Ask Al. It is episode number 33. Sorry about the little bit of delay. We always have technical issues somehow or another, but we've got a lot of stuff to talk to you guys about tonight. We've got a couple of new things that we're going to be talking about tonight. Mandy's going to be talking about some rescue dogs that are looking for homes and super cute dogs. But I've got a ton of questions. I'm not sure exactly how many questions we have, but we have a boatload of questions that you guys have submitted in a variety of ways to us. But if this is your first time here and you're wondering who in the world I am, my name is Al. I am a dog trainer in Houston, Texas. I've been in the business for about 9 years now, and we just really want to help families raise happy and reliable dogs. As far as the types of things that I do, I train puppies, I train adult dogs. We train families, how to get their dogs to potty outside. We teach dogs how to sit, how to come, all sorts of different things. We're also coaching people that are competing in dog sports. So there's a lot of different things that we're doing. But hey, if you've got questions, I definitely want to help you answer them. And so anyway, we've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, and I'm going to let Mandy sit here and we're going to get started. All right, so what's our first question for tonight?
First question is, recently my dog has been peeing on herself, not completely, but it happens when I get home from work to let her out. And the other time was when she got out of her bed and I went to correct her for it and put her back. This just started happening and I have no idea why. She's 1 year and 4 months now.
So what I think that's happening, and it's just my best guess, it sounds like you have some excitement peeing going on. And excitement peeing is very common in puppies, but it's not so common in dogs that are about this age. But I will tell you, my very first German Shepherd as an adult, that was Jasmine. Jasmine actually had excitement peeing for quite a bit of time in her life. I think she was actually excitement peeing for my brother until she was about 8 or 9 years old. Now, let me just kind of tell you what's actually happening. The whole thing that triggers the excitement peeing is your dog's overexcitement. Now, it is okay for dogs to get excited, but excitement is generally the thing that leads dogs to do all the things that we don't enjoy about them, like jumping on us and nipping on us, and definitely this excitement peeing. So let me give you a couple of practical things first. So if you're getting home and this is when your dog is doing the excitement peeing, the first thing that I would tell you is actually take it easy on yourself. Try not to greet your dog with touch or coming over the top of your dog upon seeing them. Probably the best thing to do is to ignore them. Now, this doesn't work for every dog, but it can be pretty useful. Now, let me give you another tip. If you happen to have somebody home, it gets even better for you as far as options. If somebody's home and you happen to walk in the door and the dog really gets excited, doing place training or at least having a leash on the dog and restraining them and not going to pet them in that initial meeting is going to go a very long way to having the dog understand to become calm. What you're actually looking for the dog to do is once they go from this excited, they're shaking and they're doing all that because they're so happy to see you, that they actually go much calmer. This is where you're going to actually get rid of the problem. And what I will tell you is if you can bring them down out of excitement for however long that takes, if you can get them out of excitement and then you use a treat pouch like the one that I'm wearing here, don't know if y'all can see that, but if you grab that treat pouch after they've calmed down for just a couple of moments and then you feed them, you'll actually begin to reward the dog for going into the calming process. But if the dog sees you, tends to excitement pee, and then you go and pet them, which will reward them, then you're going to begin to compound the problem for your dog. So it really is kind of tricky in those moments, especially if you don't have somebody at home. But this is where a crate or at least some kind of barrier between you and your dog can really help. Putting that barrier or having your dog in the crate, having them calm down before you come over the top of them or touch them is going to go a long way here. Mandy, do you have any experience with excited peers? Dogs?
Yeah, I mean, yes. And I normally just when I get home, I'll bring them outside, make them come outside before I
I think that's pretty smart.
And then, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of dogs actually suffer with this, and it really particularly happens with puppies. But it's definitely something that happens when dogs are overexcited. So again, and I know we talk a lot about this on this channel, but teaching your dog to actually become calm is the key to a lot of the things that are going to help make you successful. Okay, so what's next?
Next, how can I handle my dog? He's very powerful when he gets excited, and I'm afraid of how strong he is.
There's a lot of dogs. I have to handle a dog right now, and the good thing is this dog is not actually scary, but this dog is a Great Dane, one of our clients. Maybe you guys are watching right now, but he is really, really large. When I met him, I think he was at 9 or 10 months old, and the dog was already at 120 pounds. And I think they went back to the vet, and he had already gained another 10 pounds,
Wow.
another 10 pounds in that time. So, like these really, really big dogs, the one thing that I'm going to caution all of you guys when you have a really large dog and you're trying to physically control them is number one, please, please, please do not put a harness with a ring on the back on these really large dogs that you're having a hard time controlling, because it's going to amp them up even more. But then the other thing that we tend to do, and this really begins to depend on the dog, is we go with these really wide collars on their neck. If you're going like a 3/4 inch or even a full inch collar, and maybe sometimes even a 1/2 inch one, if that wide of a collar is going to make it much more difficult. Now, on the types of training collars, that you could use, the types of training collars that you could use to really help you in this situation, I would maybe look at anything from a martingale. And a martingale basically is a collar that has a strap that's going to be kind of a horseshoe, and then it's going to have a chain or a cloth portion that it's going to partially close. You're not necessarily looking for the design, but you're looking for the width of the collar, because that's what's going to help. Now, if it's a very, very powerful dog, then I often recommend using a Herm Springer prong collar. And the reason for that is a lot of dogs, a lot of real big dogs that are getting excited, okay, if you put a collar on them, they're going to be choking themselves, but it doesn't bother the dog. So one, you could create an injury, and two, it's not effective to be able to calm a dog. The great thing about a Herm Springer prong collar is, one, they're designed with your dog's safety in mind, but they're also designed to help your dog actually begin to become calmer. So these are really good. You do need to be careful when you're selecting a prong collar, because they're not all designed the same. And as a professional, I'll tell you, the only ones that we'll use on any kind of dog are Herm Springers, because they're safer and they're very, very effective at doing what they're designed to do. So for your very large dog that gets very excited, the first thing is picking out equipment that's going to help you. But then the other thing is to really get dedicated to start training them to actually do some of the important things. And I'm not just talking about training your dog to sit or to come when called. I'm really talking about teaching your dog the art of doing nothing, or settling and staying where you tell them to until you release. We've got a lot of great videos on this channel that can help walk you through that process. But if you're not really sure how to do that, heck, I'd love to have a conversation with you about how to help you, properly apply a prong collar, how to use it in a way that's going to be clear to your dog, and how to incorporate that tool into teaching your dog to become a calmer pet. So have you ever experienced, what's the biggest dog that you've ever handled? Have you ever handled any of these 100 or 150 pound dogs before?
Nothing really bigger than a German Shepherd.
Yeah, and some of these dogs, like a German Shepherd, obviously can be a very, very powerful dog.
Yeah.
It's a lot of dog. So, if you're kind of a tiny person and you're getting these big dogs, and these more powerful tools are really important for you. And there's a lot of politics in dog training. And here in this show, we don't care about the politics. We care more about you and your relationship with your dog. And I'm going to tell you that sometimes people judge people that are using prong collars and things like that. But the fact of the matter is these tools actually help empower humans to be able to have the relationships that they want with their dogs. So just know that in the world, people are going to judge you for doing the right thing for your dog. And so it's a good thing to use a prong collar when you know how to use it, and use it effectively, because it can be a life-saving tool for your dog, and it can change the whole relationship. Well, hey, I hope that helps your question. Looks like we had a question
Yeah.
come in from Crystal.
Yeah, she said, why does my puppy prefer to bite me rather than the toy I'm offering her?
So a lot of it, Crystal, has to do with the way that you're making the presentation. So let me kind of guide you through this. Dogs, when it comes to toys, it's all about what their eyes are doing. If you've ever noticed with our human eyes that anything that's happening on the periphery of our vision actually begins to draw our attention. And that's just because the way that motion works for the human eye. Well, the dog's eye is actually even more so. Anything that moves is what's going to get the dog's attention even more. So what ends up happening with a lot of people when they have really young dogs that are kind of nipping at them is the dog nips. Yes, it's painful, and then you move more. And there it is. There's the cycle. They nip, you move. They nip, you move. So one thing that I recommend for everybody that has these puppies that are really like they're 6.5 months and younger is I really recommend wearing long sleeve shirts and wearing pants. And yes, I know this is kind of a drag a little bit, but if you're wearing those things, you're going to be way more tolerant of those bites. Now that doesn't solve the problem, and the problem generally works itself out by the time you're by the time the dog is done teething around 6 and 6.5 months. But let me go and answer your question directly. What you want to actually do is when you present a toy to a dog, you don't present it. And I'll actually show you with a toy that we use a lot. When you present a toy to a dog, you're never going to show it like this to the dog. You're never just going to hand it to them with your hand like that. The thing that you want to do, and Mandy's going to be a good sport here, the thing that you want to do is you want to kind of tease them with it so that way they can grab it. Good job, Mandy. You want to kind of move the toy at them because whatever is moving the fastest, the thing that's moving the quickest is what's going to get the dog's attention. So if the ball is moving the most rapidly in the environment, then that's going to help you a lot. This is why we make these toys. This is what's called an everlasting fun ball. It's made by a company called Starmark. But what my team and I do is we actually cut these ropes and we attach them because they work so wonderfully well for getting the attention of your mouthy puppy. And then when the puppy actually bites it, you can have a nice game of tug showing your puppy what it is that you want it to do. But if you're coming out and you're getting hands-on with your dog and you're petting it and you're expecting it not to bite you, it's really a fool's errand to be able to do that because puppies, especially herding dogs like the Belgian Malinois, the German Shepherd, but any puppy. Boy, I've seen some Maltipoos that could just bite the living snot out of people. But as you're doing that, as you put the toy into motion, that's what's going to be the thing that's going to draw the dog's attention. So the less that your body is moving, the more that you cover yourself up, and the more that you move the toy, the better off that you're going to be. So, hey, Crystal, thanks so much for the question, and I hope that helps you with your puppy. Okay, so what's next?
Next is I'm having trouble with my weimaraner.
Yeah,
I can't say that right now.
Yeah,
weimaraner.
Can you say that fast 3 times?
No, I
Weimaraner.
can't
There we go.
I got drunk or something. Can you help this person?
She's not drunk, guys.
I'm not drunk. I don't drink.
She's not drunk. She drank a glass of wine last week, so don't. Okay,
that
so
was my alcohol for the year.
yeah, for the man, it's real early.
I mean, unless we can get another bottle of that.
Yeah, we might be able to
have
do
a problem.
that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So
yeah.
So the question is, yeah. So how do I get? Yeah. Oh, there it is.
I'm having trouble with my weimaraner.
I wanted her to say it one more time. Yeah, so look, if you're having trouble with your weimaraner, the question is, well, the answer is yes, I can help you. And there's a lot of different things that we can do to help you with your dog. Look, these are really powerful dogs. Sometimes they can actually be kind of difficult pets. A weimaraner really needs a job. So how can we go about helping you? Well, like there's a lot of great things that we do. And like this question really, like when I was thinking about adding it into our list, you know, obviously it's an open-ended question. So the answer, like we train dogs, we can absolutely help you with any breed of dog, weimaraner, Belgian Malinois, German Shepherd, Rottweiler, Maltipoo, Yorkie Poo, Golden Doodle, Labradoodle, whatever breed it is, I can definitely help you. We've had a lot of experience over the course of this past decade of helping families with their dogs. So what can I do? Well, I could coach you. And so what that means is that I'll show up to your home, and what I do is I actually get your dog started for you. Like I teach the dog, I give that initial impression to the dog of this is the thing that you actually need to learn. And then what I do after that, I'm teaching the dog, and while that's happening, you're actually looking and watching and observing that happening. And then I bring you in, and I begin. Are we drunk here? Oh my God! I begin to coach you up on how to do the very thing that I did. Now it can look difficult, and dog training can be a challenge, but man, I'm just so relieved that I'm actually pretty good at what I'm doing now, and it's getting easier and easier to work with you guys and find ways to help you become successful. So I can coach you, and I can teach your dog the beginning of the skill, and it can really begin to get your dog off to the start that you've always dreamed of. Now, that's probably one of our most expensive products because I have to drive to your home to be able to do that. And I'm not going to talk about price right now. You can go to the website and check all that stuff out. But then there's a lot of other ways that we can help you. You know, we're doing a lot of great things, and I'm so close to doing another great thing that I've been really looking forward to. Mandy knows what that is, but anyway, we've got so many other great things. We've got all the videos on this YouTube channel. Heck, I was looking last night, and Mandy's daughter Gracie is actually sitting in the room. That she is actually helping us quite a bit with the YouTube channel, and I was thinking about her work and thinking about how we can help you guys. And I looked and saw a playlist that we have that's called Tips from Al the Dog Trainer. I think we're approaching close to 80 different tips on different dogs, different things that are happening, and different challenges. So you can literally go to one of our playlists and watch tip after tip after tip, or find the one specific tip that is designed to help you. And if that video doesn't answer your question, you can drop a comment down below, and then I'll go into even more detail. But what are some of the other things? What are some of the other things that we do? Well, one of the really cool things that we also do on this YouTube channel is, we create, videos for this. If none of you guys know what this is, some of y'all may not know, some of y'all may. This is a virtual reality headset. I'm the only dog trainer in the world right now that's making virtual reality dog training videos for free. And man, I got to tell you, when you watch it inside of this, it is an incredible experience. It's like you get me in the room right there to explain to you the thing that you're looking for. But there's all sorts of different VR headsets. These are kind of pricey. I think they're like 150, 160 bucks. But I routinely give these away to clients. This right here is a little one that I carry around with me. And these are like $5 or $6. But you could take this, and you put these little glasses on over your smartphone, and then when you look through them onto your phone, you get a 3D environment inside of that. And then we've got other things as well. This is a cardboard. I'm just going to pop it out for just a second. It does require a little bit more assembly, but you pop your phone into this box, and then there's lenses right there that you look in, and it's an even more immersive environment. These glasses are about, $7, $8. This is about $10. And then of course you have the big daddy here, the Oculus Go, and those are about $150. You can spend a lot more money in a virtual reality headset, but that's going to give you an experience that's going to be really unique. So if you're struggling with your dog, if it's with your weimaraner, with your German Shepherd, with your Belgian Malinois, with your Doberman, with your Yorkie Poo, with your Labradoodle, or any other breed, with your Airedale Terrier, with any breed of dog, I have experience with all these breeds, and I'd love to be able to help you to do that. Looks like we got another question in. So, all right.
George says we're working on a play stay. One dog has been responsive, but the other just won't lay down.
So I guess George, hey, thanks so much for the question, George. Appreciate you. So here's the thing, okay? When we have a dog that won't lay down, it's not a question of like, hey, can I force my dog into a down, or can I give them enough food? It generally is a question of comfort, of making the bed more comfortable, because obviously your dog is laying down through the day and it's laying down at night. So what I want you to do is I want you to see what are the types of things that your dog is laying on. Now let me give you a little bit of advice right here. If you get something soft and pillowy and put it on top of the bed, and then deploy patience and also put the dog's food on top of there, you've got a recipe for success right there. As you're thinking about any kind of thing that you're trying to teach the dog, the two things that you want to associate, the two emotions that you want to associate that are going to tell your dog this is the right thing to do are pleasure and comfort. And so having soft bedding, okay, is how you're going to address comfort, and then having food that the dog thoroughly enjoys, that you go through a process and see which one is most valuable. That's how you're going to make it pleasurable. But some dogs really do struggle with this. And so this is where handling, actually getting the dog into your hand and showing your dog how to lay down and then massaging their bodies as they're on this comfortable thing is going to go a long, long way. Let me give you one more tip. Look at the place where the dog is already lying down and take your training into that room, into the spot that they're already laying, and begin to teach them there, and then you could grow the skill from there. So those are some of the tips that you can do. Patience always wins. You can always wear a dog out by saying you're going to mind the boundaries by using your leash, and eventually they'll get tired. But it's a good idea to make it easy for them to get tired. Let me give you one more tip. If your dog is already walking well on a leash, you could take your dog for a pretty good, pretty long walk. And as you're walking the dog, they're going to get tired. And then when you come back from your walk, this is a great opportunity to get your dog to stay. You could put the bowl of water on top of the bed, and then you can make it nice and soft and cool for the dog. And this is a great time to be able to teach that. So there's some tips that you can use to teach stubborn dogs or dogs that are unresponsive to getting them to lie down. And hope that helps, George.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Next.
Hey, can we get for those of you guys that are watching, you guys could do a huge favor for me right now if y'all wouldn't mind. Would you mind hitting that thumbs up button? It means a lot to us. Obviously YouTube is looking to see how people are engaging with their content. And if you're watching this and this is bringing you any value, if it's bringing you any value at all, it would mean so much to me if you would go down there and hit the thumbs up button. But hey, if you think that these shows are useful and you know anybody that might be able to benefit from them, hitting the share button and sending that to them, in a link, in a text message or anything like that. I can't tell you what that means to us as a small business. We really rely and depend on those things. So, hey, thanks to everybody for watching tonight. It means a lot to me that I have your attention, and if I can help you in any way with your dog, that's what we're here to do. Sorry, Mandy, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Yeah.
that's
So okay.
good.
So what's next?
Somebody asked, do you have a list of foods that are toxic for dogs?
So the first one that I can think of is one of my favorite foods. I love chocolate. And yes, so chocolate definitely is not something that you want to give to your dog. Actually, on social media, I noticed today that there was a pretty sad story in one of the forums that I was following about German Shepherd dogs. And so there's an artificial sweetener out there by the name of xylitol. And I believe xylitol, it starts with an X. I'm not going to try to spell it, but I think it's something like XYO. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's spelled like that. But there was a new variant of it, and it was called like Xylosweet instead of xylitol. And maybe you've missed this one. So chocolate for sure, xylitol and Xylosweet, which is some kind of variation on it. It's something like that. Like I know I've used toothpaste in the past that had xylitol, and I'm very, very careful about using those because they are pretty dangerous to dogs. Now there's a couple others that are coming into mind, but I'm gonna have Mandy help me here because really this is not my area of expertise. But raisins, yeah, raisins and grapes. Yep. Have something in there.
I think.
No, I don't think blueberries are poisonous. But something I've heard of is garlic.
Yeah, I was gonna say garlic and maybe onion.
Yeah, garlic and onion, but I don't know that they're like.
They're more irritants.
Yeah, they're more irritants than something that's lethal.
So much toxic in it.
Now there is a plant that I've heard a lot of, but this is kind of unverified. So whatever you're hearing here, take it with a grain of salt. Go verify. Have a conversation with your veterinarian. So far we've said, xylitol, xylosweet, chocolate, onions, garlic, raisins, grapes. And so there's a plant that's in a palm tree, Seiko palms, yeah,
and
right?
oleanders.
And oleanders. Now both of those, I'm pretty positive are toxic. And then during the holiday season, during Christmas season, poinsettias. Poinsettias are things, and so those aren't necessarily foods, but these are things that are pretty dangerous. That are pretty dangerous for dogs. Now, dogs can actually have food allergies for a host of things. Okay, and so I'm not even going to get into that because that'll take up all of our time. But there's definitely a lot of things there that can be dangerous for dogs. Something that's not toxic, but that could be lethal for your dog that I think is really worth mentioning is cooked bones. So not raw bones, not raw meaty bones, but a cooked bone is a very dangerous thing for your dog.
Like any cooked bone or cooked chicken bone?
Well, any cooked bone because
they're more they break apart, right?
Well, so actually, this is I guess if semantics matter here, raw bones break, cooked bones will splinter. And that's the issue with the cooked bone, at least the way that I've been taught, is that whenever you go through the cooking process, the bone will actually go and turn into toothpicks, so to speak, right? And that's where it's deadly for your dog because it can actually perforate the intestines and it can do a lot of damage to a dog. So a raw bone is generally pretty safe because your dog, it's going to crunch and turn into nuggets, and basically there's not going to be anything sharp that your dog's intestines can handle, but those cooked bones can be. So really chocolate, chocolate's a really big one. And then one last one, if you like to drink anything, vodka or beer or any kind of liquor, things like that, all alcohol is actually dangerous for a dog. They do not have an enzyme that humans produce that metabolizes it. So it's very difficult for your dog to rapidly metabolize any kind of alcohol. So it is not a good idea to ever give them even any. Okay, so hey, really good question, but please be sure if you want to know of a more complete list of what is toxic to your dog, please have a conversation with your veterinarian. They should be able to help you and guide you through that. All right, what's next?
How do I stop my dog from eating so fast?
So there's a lot of different ways, but Mandy, what do you think? What do you think my answer to this is? I think you know my answer to this one.
Well, hand feed.
Hand feeding, man. Hand feeding is it. Hand feeding is the way to go. Like, there's so much benefit to hand feeding your dog. The single biggest benefit to hand feeding your dog is that if you talk and then you dispense the food, your voice will become valuable. And now, here's number two. If the dog looks at you and then you talk and then you feed, then you get eye contact from dogs. And if you do it enough, you're going to get really, really great attention on your face, especially if you go through that. If you go through a process of hand feeding a dog 1 month, 2 months, a year, if you go the full year of hand feeding a dog, and that's difficult. It's a lot of work to do that.
That's a big commitment.
Yeah, it's a pretty big commitment. And not to brag or anything, this is something that I set out to do as a really big goal of mine. When I got Gabby, I think I missed five or 6 days in 1 year where I didn't hand feed her every piece of food. And the attention that I get from that dog is phenomenal. There's an incredible amount of attention that I get. And I still continue to do it. The other day, I sat down with her right over here where she lies down to get her dinner. And I did 30 or 40 repetitions of just individual pieces of food for attention. Just a real simple little bitty drill. So a great way to slow down your dog is by hand feeding, and the benefits are innumerable. There's so many of them that's great. But I have seen other ways you can do it. One thing that I've seen, if you happen to have outside dogs or dogs that live in an outdoor kennel, is actually putting their food actually on the ground. If you put their food on the ground and it's all one layer, then that actually tends to work well. I actually have a bowl over here that I'm looking at here. I'm just going to jump off the set for a second. Whenever I bowl feed any of my dogs, I like to use something like this and put a shallow layer of food on the bottom, because that makes it more difficult for the dog to just really go up and down. Gabby is a particularly fast eater, so spreading the food out on one single layer is going to really slow them down a lot. Now, I've also seen some products, and Mandy, maybe you have seen some of these too. I've never used one,
I've used
but the
them.
ones that actually have
Yeah.
like lines in there, and the dog has to work
Yeah, I
particularly
have two
hard.
fast eaters.
So what do you think about that
I mean,
product?
it does slow. I like it. Because my fast eaters want to eat all their food and then go and try to sneak into the other dog's food who eat normally, and so the slow feeders made it to where they're all done at the same time, basically. So they work. I have heard that buy a good one, because I've heard that some dogs get like acne from them because their nose goes down.
Are they rubbing their face in
I
it or
think
something? And it's just like
one of my
irritations?
friends, kind of warned me that their dog got like dog acne from their slow feeder, but I never had any issues, and it did. So if you can't, always hand feed, it's a good alternative if you're just trying to get them not to.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know why they eat so fast. They just act like they're.
Yeah, some dogs get
Starving.
some dogs get really, really excited. Gabby is one of them. She is a particularly fast eater. Actually, all of my German Shepherds have been particularly fast, but we've always mitigated the problem, so to speak, by just hand feeding them, and then using pans that are large, so that way it slows it down. And heck, another way is just to have multiple feedings throughout the day. If you're like with my adult dogs, we tend to feed them once a day unless there's something nutritionally going on, health-wise going on. But if you feed them multiple times a day, in theory, they should be more satisfied. They should be more satisfied, and they should begin to eat slower. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that actually happens, because some dogs, you could dump a whole bag of dog food and they would gorge. Actually, I think it's genetically driven that, like in wolves, they eat once every 3 or 4 days, and so every time that they eat, they gorge themselves because they don't know when the next rabbit, when the next buffalo, when the next whatever. So that's how they have to act, and so a lot of that may actually be a very primal kind of genetic thing that's part of the dog to actually overeat. And some dogs are finicky eaters. So, but the best way to slow down your dog, in my opinion, is to hand feed them. And then the second best way is using these slow feeders. Is that what it's called? Slow feeders. And then shallow pans are another good way to go about doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, someone wants to know how they teach their dog to shut up.
It's interesting. The way that I go about teaching a dog to be quiet is to teach them to bark first.
Okay.
And so, I think is that a question? Is that another one of the questions that we have tonight? Oh yeah, it's the last question on there. So how do I teach my dog to speak?
Hey, you want to go with both of those?
Well, look, because they're teaching your dog to speak or teaching your dog to shut up are two sides of the same coin. Okay. A lot of times when a dog has an unwanted behavior, your dog is not aware that they're actually doing that. Like right now, as I was speaking, so I bumped into Mandy's foot, and I was also kind of bouncing my leg underneath the table, and I wasn't necessarily aware that I was doing that until I ran into her foot. And so what happens is a lot of time your dog may be doing things and they're unaware. Yes, they're doing them, but the brain is not consciously aware that it's happening. So the way that you make a dog aware of anything, the way you make a human aware of anything, is through emotion. Anytime that there's an emotion deployed, pleasure, comfort, becoming frustrated, becoming uncomfortable, then you can actually begin to modify and change that behavior. So the pathway that I like to take is I like to teach a dog to bark for food. Because if they're barking and they bark for food and I feed them, then I can use a leash, and I can use also not giving them food to teach them how to become quiet. But you're gonna have to watch carefully as you go through that. Now, the easiest way to shut a dog up is a bark collar, but I'm not really a huge fan of them. I really feel like if you're gonna put a bark collar on your dog, for barking, yes, it's going to work like the whole, a huge percentage of the time. But I really feel like I don't even want to call it lazy, because I don't think that it's that. I just think that there's so many better ways to go about teaching a dog to be quiet by doing place training. And yes, this training that I'm advocating for is actually a little bit more involved in your part. But if you own a dog and we're supposed to be their leaders, then I think that it's really important that we raise them to understand how to be the best version of themselves. So if your dog is barking a lot, teaching them the place command is a really great way to get them to understand to be quiet. Because here's what happens, guys. When you train a dog to go to their place, you teach them that, hey, getting on your place makes us relax the leash that we're using to put you on there and makes us begin to give you food. The dog's going to associate that's good. But here's the trick. If your dog is on their place and they begin to bark, their brain is then going to tell them to come off of their place. It's going to happen 9 out of 10 times. And the moment that they come off of their place, which was led by barking, and you put them back on and reward them, you're now in the act of punishing barking. So you're including your dog with you. You're giving them something to do. You're rewarding the thing that you want them to do. And then when they begin to bark, their brain will say, start moving forward. They move forward, they come off their place, and then you put them back, thereby punishing them for barking. And then once they're quiet again, you go back to reward. That's a little bit more involved than just slapping on a bark collar on your dog, but it's going to give you and your dog 2 things: companionship for each other, and a dog that learns how to be calm in your presence. And for me, that's the way that I would choose to teach any dog not to bark. But I love, again, just going back to what I said earlier, I love to teach them to bark because it makes it easier, because I've brought awareness to the behavior, and then I can make them aware of being quiet too. And those 2 things are really how you're going to win big. All right, what's next?
Well, can Al the dog trainer play calming music on my Amazon Echo?
So currently, no. And I've had this question a couple of times: if our skill on your Amazon Echo product, if it can actually play music to help calm your dog. So the answer is no. It can't currently do that. But if you have one of these devices, it's actually super simple to actually do it. Now, I'm not gonna get her, because she's right across the room right now, and I'm talking about the artificial intelligence. If I say her name, she's gonna start responding, and we all kind of get frustrated with her sometimes. So you can, if you have any of these music services, I think now you can actually have Apple Music.
I don't have a music service connected to mine, and I just say, hey, play.
You
can say play calming music, and it'll pull it from Amazon.
Okay, yeah. So I think you have to have a subscription to Amazon Music, but I don't know. Like, maybe you do.
Maybe I do, don't know about it.
Or maybe when you did, you signed up, right? Maybe she.
I don't know who's paying for it.
Yeah, probably me.
But
so, yeah, so
just ask her to play some music.
But you can tell your artificial intelligence, you can tell your Echo product, or even your Google Home, or your I think your Siri HomePod. I think any of these, you can actually tell the AI to actually play calming music. And I'll tell you what, if you use Spotify, Amazon Music, iTunes, or any of these other music services, man, there are so many different options for being able to do that. So I love doing thunderstorm training with dogs by playing thunderstorm music on those speakers, on those smart speakers, while I'm teaching the dog how to become calm. And that can actually be really effective. So our skill at the moment can't necessarily play that music, but the device, if you happen to have one, sure as heck can. Now, what can the skill do? Well, the skill does a really wonderful job of submitting your questions. Sometime this year, as we're developing all these, this content, sometime this year, you're going to be able to ask your smart speaker, particularly the Echoes, you're going to be able to ask them a question, and immediately a piece of our content is going to play, and that's going to be completely for free, because we really believe in the power of the internet and helping you raise your dog where you don't owe us anything. We just want to do that for you, I guess because I just love dog training so much. So, all right, so what's next, Mandy?
How do I get my dog to stay when I tell them to?
Well, it's a difference of what are their choices. Surprisingly, though, most people think that getting a dog to stay has a lot to do with actually saying the word stay, or they also happen to think that the reason that their dog stays is because they give them so many treats, or maybe they think it's because they're using a clicker, or whatever it is. But here's what it boils down to. The reason that the dog, the reason that you, and the reason that any other creature stays is a two-sided coin. All right. So, well, it's two sides to the same coin. So the number one reason that your dog will choose to stay is because it is pleasurable and comfortable. And the number one reason, well, I'm kind of thinking about the way that I worded that, and I don't know that's the best way to word it. But here's what I'll say, guys, okay? Your dog will avoid coming off because there's nothing good that happens, and maybe it's uncomfortable. That, and like any human, like I've been asking this question this past week for any of us that speed on the road, and really who doesn't speed when they're driving. If you're a speeder, and let's just say that the speed limit is 65, you might be going 70, 72, 75, if you're really pushing it, going 80, right, in a 65. But will you speed over the top of the white line? And the answer is no, you won't. Not consistently. If you start hearing the rumple strip on the side of the road, will you continue to speed? And so what's keeping you in the lane? Well, one, the ability to go forward as quickly as you want to go, that's part of it. But the other thing that's keeping you inside the stripes is the threat of running into something. That's scary. Nobody wants to run into another car, especially going 70 or 80 miles per hour. That's life-ending to do that. So now I'm not advocating to end your dog's life for breaking their stay, but the thing that makes them stay is, do they run into a boundary whenever they come off that isn't any good and doesn't allow them to go any further, or do they get to stay and continue to move and continue to enjoy the things that they value? And that's really how anything works. That's how you get a dog to walk on a leash. That's how you get a dog to stay in their place. That's how you get a dog to turn around and come back. These three major skills are really tied up, and all that boils down to is the path of least resistance and the pathway of reward. Anytime you're deciding why anybody is doing anything, those two things are going to really help you to understand why that happens. Okay, what's next?
What do I do if my dog is afraid of the sound of the clicker?
And this can be pretty tough because clicker training is really powerful. We use clickers to train dogs. I remember when I learned about them, and I was really impressed by the clicker's ability to clearly communicate to the dog that that's right. But what if the clicker's scary? What if your dog is scared by the air conditioner turning on, or the washing machine, or the dryer, or anything else like that, turning on? Heck, it can be tough. Well, here's the good thing. The clicker in itself is just a tool, but it is part of a larger part of science that's called moment marker training. And there is a tool that you're going to have almost your entire life if you're any human on the face of the planet, and that is your voice. So let me just explain very simply how a clicker works. If you click and then you hand the dog the reward, whether it's a piece of food, petting the dog, or you click and then the ball comes out, then the dog will make an association that that particular sound coming from the clicker is going to produce the thing that happens next. If you get particularly good at that, then the dog really, really believes that the clicker is an incredibly valuable thing. But if your dog is afraid of it, there's not really a good way to go about making the sound of the clicker less scary. You could, but it wouldn't necessarily be a good tool at the end of that. So simply using your voice and speaking first, and then moving into your pouch or grabbing your toy and throwing it then is almost identical to using a clicker. I'll be honest, over the past year, I've faded clickers out of my training, not because I don't believe in what they can do, but they actually add a degree of complication that isn't needed to be able to get your dog to be as good at something as you can. Now, if you've been training dogs for some time, or you're particularly coordinated and you learn the process of actually rewarding a dog well, then getting a clicker involved will speed up the process considerably. So for me, when I get my next puppy, I'm going to be using a clicker to put in a lot of the foundation because it'll speed up the process. But if you're considering clicker training and you don't have the greatest coordination in the world, then it's not a bad, you don't have to use a clicker. You can still use your voice, but you will have to be smart about the words that you choose to use as your clicker. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm not a huge fan of people clicking their mouth. It's better to use the word like good, or a word like yes, or a word like go, something that's maybe a single syllable whenever you're doing a clicker. So there's my take on that. Okay, what's next?
How many do you want to do?
Yeah, let's do one more. Pick a good one. And hey guys, just thanks so much for watching tonight. I really appreciate each and every one of you guys. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of y'all. We have a lot of dogs on the schedule this week. So if you're one of my clients, hey, I appreciate you inviting me into your home. I hope that you're enjoying this time inside of my home here with my friend Mandy, and just getting to watch this. But hey, if this is bringing you any value, we really would appreciate a thumbs up, or make sure you share. And if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. We're putting out more and more content to really be able to help you to raise your dog. So, all right, so drum roll, what is the last question?
So this is a good one. How do I earn my dog's trust?
Trust is tough. Trust with humans sometimes can be kind of difficult, right? Trusting dogs, trusting humans, trusting one another. It's a hard thing. And I've been thinking a lot about trust lately. There's a guy that I follow, and he probably won't see this, but Gary Vaynerchuk is just an incredible entrepreneur. Really just a great role model for people that do, have small businesses and even large businesses. But Gary's really motivated me. And one thing that Gary said to me that was really interesting, or Gary commented on, is Gary's talking that he gives trust to everybody until they decide to lose it. And a lot of people say like trust is earned. Well, when you're a human, I think that it's good to give trust to each and every dog and each and every human that you meet, and then do the best you can. But when it comes to your dogs not all dogs are going to give trust freely. Some dogs are very, very afraid of different things different things in the environment. I met a dog just a couple of days ago, actually a pair of dogs, and one of the dogs was terrified of me. We put a leash on the dog, and the dog literally had a panic attack right in front of me. And it was such a sad thing to see. But how did we overcome this situation where the dog, has a panic attack because they have a leash put on them, and they're very worried about what's happening to them? Well, the thing is you have to be good to them. And to be good to any dog really means that you have to know who they are. You have to understand, what makes my dog uncomfortable? Do loud noises? Do other dogs make my dog uncomfortable? This is something that I saw today, and it happens all the time. People have this dream of taking their dogs to a dog park. And for a lot of dogs, it's actually kind of a good thing. I'm not a big fan of it, but if it benefits the dog and it could benefit you in your relationship, well, why not use it? But some dogs really aren't meant for dog parks. And so I was looking at the advice that this person was receiving, because their dog went to a dog park and got attacked. And there was so many people urging this person to take their dog back to the dog park, and they did. And the dog was heavily, heavily traumatized going back again. So there's not one answer that's going to tell you how to build trust in your dog, but the right thing is to do the right thing by your dog, and to know who your dog is, to know their emotions and know who they are, and begin to treat them as an individual, and then love them in that individuality and help them be the best version of themselves. Some of the great things that you can do is you can hand feed your dog. You can play games with your dog. Maybe if you have a dog that doesn't eat particularly well and doesn't play particularly well, having a soft place for it to lie down and laying next to them and petting them is a good thing. But what's not good is not showing them any boundaries. When you have these really weak dogs that are afraid of everything, and you don't put any boundaries up, how do you let them know where the safety begins and the stuff that they're afraid of ends? Every dog needs boundaries. Every human needs boundaries, because it creates safety for us. As humans, this might be my last live show ever. I could pull out of my driveway tomorrow, and that could be the end of it. And none of us really know. But developing trust in your dog is understanding who your dog is, deploying compassion, deploying mercy, deploying grace, and all these wonderful human attributes that we can deploy, and really just being in a relationship with them and caring. But caring doesn't always mean being soft and cuddly. Sometimes caring means to share the hard stuff in life to protect them from being even more hurt or even losing their lives. So it's not a hard thing to earn the trust of a lot of dogs, but some dogs are more difficult. Staying patient, being merciful, being compassionate, and being clear are all recipes to be able to develop trust.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I don't have anything else. Hey, thanks so much for each and every one of you guys that watched this tonight. Oh, do we guys? Oh, yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah,
oh my
Al,
God.
what the hell?
Well, like it's not on the list. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. So,
Yeah. Go
anyway,
ahead.
guys, we're going to talk about some rescue dogs tonight.
Yes.
So I'm going to put a link up here. I'm going to go ahead and put a link up. This is to the rescue's website and directly to the dog's page. So it's actually a bonded pair. Their names are Nicki and Cardi. And I think Jade's going to put a picture up. It's probably up by now. So these guys, there's a video on that link I sent that you should watch. It's kind of them getting out of the shelter and how they looked and their little transformation. So here's a little bit of their story. Cardi is 5 and Nicki is about 4 years old. They came in together. They are very bonded. Cardi is the black one and Nicki is the cream colored one. They're so cute. So the owner surrendered them both to the shelter. Cardi was matted so badly that her coat came off in like one solid piece. It was full of fecal matter and debris. I think that's in the video. She now has a gorgeous coat that will grow back soon enough. Nicki had some knots and some marring, but wasn't near severe. She has had litters of puppies in the past. They were both spayed and had dentals this past week. And Cardi had a little cherry eye that she got taken care of. The rescue, by the way, is called Chip and Snip. They said that the girls will kennel themselves and they are potty trained and they're dog friendly, but they need a day or two to adjust. They are cat friendly, but they will chase a cat if they run. And they are bonded and prefer to be in the vicinity of each other. They are really amazing lap dogs, and Cardi is a snuggler and craves touch and love. Nicki likes to be close, but is a bit more independent. They would be better with older kids, and mainly due to their low confidence level. Small kids tend to be a little more impatient with kids adjusting. So older kids or older, would be
so
ideal.
teenagers and
yeah.
but maybe like toddlers or maybe like 5 and 6 year olds.
We're not saying that they wouldn't do good, but I think it would be,
it'd be better if you had older kids.
They would need some really good, guiding parents to help the kids understand that they need some time to adjust, and they're probably not, They're probably, actually, I think the rescue said that they would be really, really great for a senior, an older couple or a senior, because they're really easy. They're really, they do really well alone. They don't have separation anxiety, and they just really want to lay around with someone all day.
Okay. This sounds like they're
so
super
they would
cute
make a
too.
really great pair of dogs for an older couple or someone that maybe retired or
somebody maybe an empty nester or something like that.
Just needs an easy
to
cuddler.
take care of.
Yeah, very easy to. So they're listed separately on the rescue page, but the link that I gave, you can fill out one application for both the dogs.
Okay.
And they also need a foster. So if you cannot adopt, Chip and Snip really needs a foster for these girls. That would be helpful. And of course, donate to this rescue if you can. They do an incredible amount of service, and they take care of a lot of severely neglected dogs here in Houston. So
Well, guys, hey, with what Mandy said there, these dogs could really use your help. If you already have dogs and obviously can't bring them into your home, sharing that link that Mandy shared, could really help them put them in a good home. They really super cute dogs, really wonderful. Looks like a pretty easy pair to live with. So if you know somebody that's looking for a dog, Chip and Snip does a wonderful wonderful job vetting dogs. If you're looking for an organization to get behind that's actually actively helping animals, I give on a regular basis to help them, and they do fantastic work. But hey, it would just mean a lot to me if you would share this, if you can bring these dogs into your home, maybe apply some of the training principles that you're learning here on the show to them. That would be great. So, Mandy, do you have anything else that you want to add about these dogs before we wrap up the show?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, guys, so I guess that's it. Hey, thanks so much again. We really love each and every one of you guys. We'll be seeing y'all soon. Have a great week. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.